Hi, good evening or morning, depending on where you are. Hey, it's weird weather here, hot as hell, um, and hi again. We've been having some problems with the internet here, but now it's back from being below zero to full connection. I'm not sure about the radio interference or if my audio levels on the microphones is alright. And if it sounds windy to anyone, I'm sorry about that, but I have to have the window open because it's 33 degrees here. And I'm fine. I was able to finally invest in some new microphones. So hopefully the sound should be slightly better than before. So I'm just needing to find a way to get my other camera to work. And beyond that, one of my goals with these new microphones is to make a great audio quality for the live show that I have planned for the next week. Hi again, and cheers. And beyond that, they are also a bit more created for a more full kind of audio capturing. So I should be able to do a more proper like audio recordings for some of my ideas about both stories of past experiences connected to my bands and life in general, and also, of course, philosophy, psychedelia, and so on. Good evening. I guess it's warm elsewhere in the world too. Fortunately, there is beer. And good evening to California. I'm fine but tired. It's hard to sleep in this heat. So I'll see how I'll figure it out over the next weeks, because it's not going to get colder. Hi again. As for inspirations, always nature. Always and forever. My mood is fine. I had a nice call with my mother, who I haven't talked to or seen in months. So, waiting for her vacation. Uh, and beyond that, yeah, looking forward to have a day off tomorrow, so I can practice on these new microphones and my guitar and see what I can do about some songs I've been working on. As for how long I've been vegan, I'm not sure. A couple of years, and a decade of vegetarian before that. Uh, but actively, like the past 5 years at least. And there was less customers today and yesterday than the previous days. Because people are like going to lakes nearby, cooling off from the sun. And speaking about that, the closest lake to here, a guy drowned in it last night or yesterday. So that's interesting. I'm not sure how a grown person manages to do that, but that happens. But yeah, there's been customers, like enough of them to keep active. And of course, yeah, it's busy. And it's getting closer to when people are having vacations, so it's going to get busier. And I work at a restaurant called Tabergstoppen, and I'm in it right now. It's in the outskirts of Jönköping, which is between Gothenburg and Stockholm in Sweden. And no, the man that drowned yesterday is not alive. He didn't make it. And it's unclear how it happened. I just heard people at work talking about it. As for what age I started doing anything with sharp objects, I'm not sure. It was somewhere in my teenage years when I was bored, and some of the times it was out of boredom or daring others to do it, and when they didn't do it, I showed them how to do it. Then it evolved into like a bonding social thing with my friends in Life Lover. And I'm happy to hear that you enjoy Demon and that you appreciate the recommendation. I always enjoy hearing that other people enjoy it too. It's truly a fantastic artist. I look forward to her next album. Thank you, Zachary. Yeah, it's been a good day actually, compared to a few days ago. Uh, our air conditioning unit broke or stopped working because it was full of dirt from the air, since it's been pollen season and all of that. And this morning, the refrigerator room had the same problem, but fortunately, we've been able to solve that. So everything works now. It would suck to have everything rot in a day in the summer season. And thank you for listening. You are most welcome. Yeah, some days can be rough in this kind of environment since it's always warm, especially when you're frying stuff. And yeah, it's just a part of the job. So it's important to keep drinking water, and when you get off work, you start with beer. Got a few more lined up. I still have my schedule that is keeping me from going to any stores that are open. So fortunately, there is a license at this workplace to serve alcohol, so I was able to buy some from here. As for my favorite alcohol beverage, definitely beer. Hello. Yeah, always beer, because there is so much variety and depth, but also simplicity. You can find some very, to me, just the fact that there is beer is amazing to me, and being able to enjoy like a basic pilsner or lager is fine for me. But of course, I do enjoy like a good porter or stout, or to some extent IPAs, or especially a good lambic or goose. It all depends on my mood, but there is never a case when I'm not in the mood for a beer. Yeah, and Aubrey is one of our uh, grossists. I'm blanking on the word in English right now. It's one of the brewers that we get drinks from. As for the Corona beer, I think it's pretty shitty. But if I'm at like a buffet and it's included in the buffet for free, which is the only case where I've had it the past 5 years, then I can have it for breakfast. But not beyond that. And thank you. I'm glad to hear that about Skånges Hjärta and cassettes. I like cassettes, but unfortunately I don't have a stereo anymore, so I can't play any of them. As for the meaning behind Spiken i kistan, it's a bit about a combination of self-mockery and self-acceptance, and mocking those that don't understand that concept, and those that take themselves or the band too seriously. And the freedom and power of letting go. Thanks, Zachary. I appreciate that. And of course, you're always welcome back other times. And the rest of this stream will be available later too. And I hope you have a good day too. And yeah. Cheers. And to Mr. or Mrs. Juggernaut, I'm glad to hear that too. Sounds pretty good. As for what I think about the theme punk, I think it's ridiculous. Just like the term true. Because it's all about perspective. Okay, mister. And hi, Annie. How I am? Not bad. I enjoy talking to some of you here. And yeah, having a good beer. Had a decent day at work. Pretty good most of it. So yeah, it's good. Double overtime. And yeah, greetings back to Poland too. It sounds good with a refreshing drink. Thanks, Sam. That's good too. I appreciate that. And hi again, Elvia. Happy to see you here. Coffee sounds good. I've had a bit too many cups today, so I'm rounding off the evening with some beers. But I'll be back in the morning with coffee. Because this morning I was supposed to be here, but my internet connection here didn't work, so I wasn't really able to say anything about it, unfortunately. But I rescheduled it for tomorrow morning, so I'll get to a nice mood here tonight, and then I'll have some rest and then return in the morning. But yeah, I'll enjoy my beer, and hopefully you'll enjoy your coffee. As for Nachtzeit, why he's not in the band anymore, he's simply busy with Luster and also work and life. And it was the same in the past, that he had his own things to pursue in life. And generally, if someone can't be 100% into something that I'm working on, it's better to do something else. And hi, Polly. As for if I had the time when I were homeless, it's a matter of perspective, but I've had years of my life when I didn't really live anywhere, just traveling. Maybe 80% of the time I stayed at friends' places, and the rest of the time I slept in parks or cemeteries or forests. Yeah, things like that. Abandoned places. And if I listen to my music on psychedelia, yeah, and I've written some music on it too. Like a lot of Consider Suicide is inspired or by different experiences on psychedelia. And if I like pagan music, I like the instruments, but I don't like the music, because to me, what they're doing with the instruments are uninteresting to me. I appreciate the intent behind it, but it's not for me. But I understand why other people enjoy it. But yeah, Entropy, I'm happy that you had that experience with Elva. It's an important album to me, and inspired by important experiences too. As for the beginning, you didn't miss anything, Polly, so I'm happy that you at least dropped in at this time. In the beginning, I generally just either apologize for any issues that I have with the stream or in life, and then of course there is some other technical things that I just wanted to make sure are working. So it seems like everything is on point today. And good evening, Jakub. And I agree, Mr. Juggernaut. I'm glad to be able to do these streams, even if there may be some difficulties sometimes. It's starting to develop an interesting community and crowd for these streams. And it makes me think a bit outside of the box and gives me good ideas for some other videos that I'm working on. So it's a good time. If I wasn't talking to you guys and gals and others, I would just be drinking this in this same room without a camera. So hopefully it's a win-win in the end. And greetings back to Estonia. Cheers. Sorry if I'm a bit foggy or hazy today. It's just warm and I'm thirsty. So I don't have any good ideas about things to talk about tonight. But I'm up for ideas and suggestions. And yeah, I keep in touch with Trist sometimes. We are bad at writing each other sometimes, but we keep in touch at least annually. As for what I think about Ulver, it's the same like a lot of other artists that I enjoy what they do or the idea of it. And I admire the creativity, but it's not for me. As an example that can be applied to many other artists, if someone that I know enjoys it and listens to it and I'm with them, I don't mind it, and I can even be pleasantly surprised and enjoy it in that moment. But I'm not going to listen to it by myself. And Alejandro, I can't say that I have any phobias. I can't think of any. There's, of course, always things that I don't like or that I would find unpleasant. But in a situation where I have to choose between that and something worse that would injure me or someone else, I honestly couldn't care less. I can't really think of anything that I couldn't consider myself facing if it's doing that or not being able to do something that I care about a lot. Or even just for protecting someone that I care about. And if I listen to Suster, I used to 15 years ago. I haven't really kept track on what Scott has been doing the past, like at least 10 years. And that's not out of any disrespect. I think he has a good idea behind what he's doing. He seems like a good guy. So. And also, he's always been a devoted person to being an artist that does what he believes in, which I think is good. More people needs to be like that, so that's good. And if I watch Varis videos a few years ago, but not the past, maybe I've missed the 2 years, and then of course the channel disappeared. So it's just what happens. As for if I like any Russian black metal bands, I got some demos the past 10 or 15 years for some people for when I used to run a label, but unfortunately I don't remember the names of those. And there are some bands or projects that I remember appreciating, at least the sound of, but I can't remember the name. And Isabel, if I miss having my own space, well, I never really feel that any space is my own. So I don't really, to me, it doesn't really matter as long as I can do what I need to do. And hi, Fluff. And if I listen to works by Jeff, yeah, I appreciate what he's doing, but I haven't heard any of it in many years. But some of my friends are very devoted to his work, and I think he's doing interesting things, and I enjoy his art as well. So yeah, I think he's a good guy, especially an interesting guy. And no, I don't know any of those Austrians. And I don't have any real opinion about that band. I don't mind him, and whatever he thinks of me, that's his problem, not mine. That's an entirely different video. Let's see if I'll meet him or her again in the future, and we'll see what happens then. And thanks, I appreciate that. I'm just doing what I can to. And Juggernaut, I'm not sure if you're talking to me or someone else, but I'm really, of course, glad to hear that. And yeah, I enjoyed this too. As for if I've had experiences with salvia, yeah, in the past, but not the kind that people are talking about. So either I'm one of those people that doesn't work for, or I didn't do enough of it. But that's maybe 15 years ago, so I can't really say much about it. That sounds like a good time, Elvia. And yeah, I agree. Lurk of Chalice is a very interesting project. And it's few artists that have that kind of perspective on things. And if I've been recording music myself lately, yeah, the past year I've been doing everything by myself since I haven't been able to travel to Belgium to work with Dea as I usually do. And of course, I've also been saving money and investing in equipment for doing a bit more of my vision. And of course, most recent release is the second EP by my project Ritual Mode with my friend Johan, or 1853. And God kväll Bellstad. And also to the Guardian here. And well, thank you for the comment at least. I appreciate that. And if you have any questions later on, I look forward to it. And that's fine. And I'm glad to hear that, Mr. Juggernaut. It's a fun sentence to say. And how's business here? It's fine. I think people are, when they're not drowning, they're at least swimming or cooling themselves off nearby here. And before the day is over, I should go to the lake and grab some water to paint with. It's one of my hobbies. It's just very basic stuff, but still. To me, it has a meaning. As for any advice of writing good lyrics, I think I write maybe 1 or 2 a year. So I'm either the right person or the wrong person to ask, depending on your perspective. But to me, you need to have like a open mind, and that also means staying open to changes in perspective and experiences. Like, I often find myself getting good ideas for sentences that I can build lyrics of when I'm walking by myself at night in the forest or just in the countryside. So if you're able to go somewhere without light and immerse yourself in it, I think that could be an interesting starting point. And what I'm drinking right now, it's Bryggmästarens. It's a very good, like, middle of the road lager from a Swedish brewery. Like, it's mainstream beer, but for being a mainstream beer, it's pretty decent. And yeah, it's not my favorite beer, but like, it's an old beer that we used to drink a lot during rehearsals or recordings with both Lifelower and Cal. It's been with us for all the years, and it's still here. As for if I plan to shave my head, I've had planned to shave it a couple of times. Like, sometimes I'm just bored with it, and it's annoying to wash it every 2 days. And putting it up in a ponytail or a bun or things like that. And I've done it 3 times the past 20 years. Like, to me, to my genetics, like, I'm going to have hair until I'm 70 or 80 at least. So I know that I'm getting it back in 3 or 4 years. So it's all about if I can use it for something else. And I'm not going to just cut it off and throw it away. But I like to paint with my hair, and I often cut off the hair under. So if I need enough hair to make paintbrushes, that's my priority. Because I don't give a shit about how I look on this part of my head. To me, it's more important to make good paintings. But yeah, good joke about it too. Like, just hair. As for the concerts that were planned in Russia, they were postponed because of visa issues. And then, of course, there happened other stuff in life and in the world. And right now, whatever is happening isn't helping. But I look forward to being able to perform in Moscow and St. Petersburg in the future. So, as soon as the world is allowing my bands to travel, we're coming. As for what my job is, uh, I'm an artist and musician, and I'm also a chef. And right now, I'm in a restaurant or in one of the guest rooms on the attic of the restaurant where I work until September. So this is my after work, having some beers and talking to you. And if there is a song that I made that I particularly enjoy playing, yeah, definitely. I love playing half of Skångens hjärta. Afterglow is fantastic for me, and both aspects or parts of Sväva is some of my favorites. And of course, Afterglow that I've showed before. And hi, if there is a stream yesterday, there was supposed to, but the internet wasn't working, so I had to change it for tomorrow instead. I wanted it to be this morning, but the internet and computer said no. So I couldn't really say anything beyond that, unfortunately. But you didn't miss anything, so don't worry about that. And my opinion on antidepressants, they don't work for me, but I understand and respect that they work for others, and hopefully everyone with time are able to find something that works for you, be it nature, food, meditation, medication. No option or combination is wrong as long as it works for you and doesn't hinder you to cope with life and whatever it throws at you. And for me, my hair never grows longer than this, so it's around here right now. Depends on what day it is. I don't understand, but that's how it is. And yeah, I wouldn't mind doing some cooking videos in the future. Unfortunately, this camera is shit for that kind of stuff because it's impossible to remove the angle of it. Like the lens is. If I was better at editing, I could probably solve it, but as you can see, it's a wide angle lens, so if I show something in camera more close up, it would look weird. But when I'm able to get a better camera, I'll do it. I have some good recipes, and yeah, I wouldn't mind like putting together a few 3-course or 5-course dinners that you can share with people with ingredients that I'm sure that you can find either the ingredients for or I'll add options. So if you can't find one thing, you will be able to replace it with something else. And if I enjoy dancing, to some extent, It depends. And I do find it meditative too. That's why I have a video of a meditative song with my dancing combined. And yeah, I agree that mushrooms is a good antidepressant, or at least it's a good tool for therapy. And if I listen to Beherit, yeah, when we recorded Veins, we used to go out, drink coffee, and smoke and listen to Drawing Down the Black Moon. As for what inspired me to compose Varakumbla, should be obvious. Vårkumla. Varakumbla inspired Varakumbla. It's a part in the countryside near where I lived before, about 6 kilometers away from the village where I lived about 6 or 7 years ago, for 5 years prior to that. And it's an area with a lot of ancient burials and memorial sites from the Stone Age and the Viking era. Like a lot of special monuments and, of course, beautiful countryside. Not much people, just a lot of nature and farmland. And I'm going to go there in a not too distant future to record a video too, so you can see it for yourself. And I've taken some pictures there with the rest of Hypothermia too. And I don't think anything about that band. No opinion at all, because it's generic to me. I'm not interested in it. But I do appreciate classical music, but I have to be in the right mood or with the right people. I grew up with listening to classical music on vinyl with my grandfather. But I haven't really listened a lot in the past decade. I've been focused on composing. And what I think about piano, and if I play it, I think it's a great instrument. It's a very interesting and inspiring instrument because you can do a lot with seemingly little. Like just few alterations is impressive to me. And I have a few of them in different locations, in different states of decay, unfortunately. And yeah, you wouldn't find Varakumbla on maps because that spelling is a couple of 100 years old. But if you search for Vårkumla, you will find it. I'm going to spell it in the chat, so you can look if you want. There you go. It's a beautiful area. As for just before I start talking about some symbols and other stuff, once again, Bellstat about piano. I've made several EPs, either recorded on electric piano or based on electric piano, called Not Melancholy and Winter Melancholy through my project Consider Suicide. And you can find that easily both here on YouTube and also on Spotify, iTunes, and so on. Hopefully, you'll find something you like. To me, both of the Not Melancholy and Winter Melancholy series is very personal and deep for me. And the symbols is a way to, through different symbols and letters and languages, through history and my cultures that I'm from, have inspired. They, they mean different things, of course, but you can read many sentences, titles, and so on in it. And I have videos that I go into some detail about it. But of course, if you miss certain aspects or if you want more in-depth information about certain symbols, I can make a video about that. And I know that and I agree. And to me, it's more about it being an extension conceptually. And that's why what I mentioned about my hair before, that if it can be used for something, and that's one of the reasons why I sometimes save my hair, because if I do live concerts, you can do more fun things on stage with hair than without it. But if I don't perform live, my hair lacks purpose. It only really has a purpose if I paint with it or if I perform with it. And I plan videos in the future in Lithuania too. I have some good friends there, and I hope that I can do something with them. And Elvia, I would be more than happy to make a symbol or sigil for a tattoo. We can work something out for that. It sounds like a good idea, and I've done it with some symbols for others in the past. And as for test, it's a weird name to use if you want to be taken seriously, which I think you should understand. And I've talked about that in some videos that I've published on this channel. But generally, I think learning to be without relationships is an important thing to teach yourself, but also being in relationships teaches you very important things about yourself and life too. And especially if you meet the right people or the right person even, you will learn a lot about yourself. And it's rare to find people that check you on your bullshit and ways to help you improve and become a better person. And yeah, having people that inspire you to become a better person is important, I think, because you can't rely on yourself for that, because we're all prone to failure. And to what extent do I like being alone? Maybe to 80% extent. I prefer it, but I wouldn't want to be it all the time, because I know that I get into my head too much, and I could be by myself, but uh, yeah, it would end with weird stuff. I think as for the symbol, I don't have enough time to devote myself to doing something that important right now with work. So if it's no rush, depending on your personal schedule, like maybe sometime in April or September, we can either email about it or have a chat about it. And we can find a good concept to create something visually interesting. As for when I got my first tattoo, I got it after recording Sköld and Rakbladsvalsen in 2006. And that was this one. That was in January. So not long ago, but not recent either. Something in between. And congratulations on a year closer to death, or a year further from birth. And I wouldn't say that I'm an antinatalist. I don't really have an opinion. It's all about perspective, as anything else in life. And like anything else, when it comes to philosophy, it's what you make of it. So that can be applied to birthdays too. If you don't feel you have a higher purpose with your time, yeah, it's just another day. I worked on mine personally. Well, some days I celebrate it with a mixture of things I enjoy. Like if there is some days of the year that you treat yourself to something that you enjoy particularly, that should maybe be one of the days, I guess. As for if I've listened to the band Woods of Desolation, I used to be in good contact with one of them in the past. So yeah, the first demos I did, but beyond that, no. Well, as for headbanging, I understand the concept behind it, an idea. I enjoy it. To me, it's meditative. It's like a dance, where at least I turn it into a dance. And I used to do that in the past or youth too. That if there is something I enjoy, I find a way to move to it. As for what the things behind me on the wall is, it's two frames with paintings from some local artist and an old frying pan, because this is a restaurant and it's nailed to the wall, so I can't really do anything about it, and this is not my place, so it's there. And the greetings back to Argentina. Cheers. As for youth or childhood, what makes many people feel so nostalgic? Or yeah, I think it's about that you have a different perspective on yourself and life now compared to in your youth. So it's natural, I think, to have nostalgia for things that have passed compared to what is in the present or in the future, because you have a memory of it and it's your own idea of it compared to someone else's. Yeah, Forgotten Woods is awesome. As for if I or how I enjoyed Mexico, I enjoy it a lot, and I would be able to live there because I've been there so much, and I have enough good friends there that I feel I could do something useful there. But right now, I'm not able to be there for various reasons. And I've been to some other tropical places in the past too, and yeah, it's all about finding something to do with your time. And to me, as long as I have a computer and a camera and a guitar and some interesting effect pedals, I could live anywhere. And if I like the Eurovision Song Contest, I think it's bullshit, but it do helps uh, artists to some extent, even though it's not always positive from my perspective. But yeah, there will probably be less albums by ABBA without it, and that would be a bad thing. So that should mean something, I think, because ABBA has done a lot of amazing stuff in the past. And welcome back, Tom. It's going well. And yeah, besides all the heat, it's good. And we had some thunder here, which was nice, but unfortunately, nothing visible in the sky, so I wasn't able to record anything interesting, but it's good. And thank you, Polly. I can't say much about the lyric because one of my friends wrote that, but I wrote the music, and to me, that was just inspired by traveling a lot. During that time, I was traveling a lot, and yeah, many like 21 to 23-hour bus rides across Europe, reading weird books and drinking wine and having to talk to strangers, spending a lot of times on the different bus stations across Europe at night, and yeah, traveling to different cities and spending time with drunks or homeless people and so on. Teaches you stuff about life and yourself. Yeah. Well, hopefully I'll be able to do something with the wonderful band Nahash. Truly one of, if not the finest of Lithuania. And I've been mainly to Kaunas and Vilnius, and maybe some of the countryside between, but mainly Kaunas and Vilnius. And then I don't remember some of the cities in the countryside. As if I would have to be in a different body or creature if I lived again. I would always want to be a tree. And yeah, I've been in warmer climates, of course, but it's been around 31 to 33 degrees here lately, most of the time. And one of the places at my work is between a frying table of 200 degrees and another frying table of 400 degrees. And when you're standing there for a while, in the 30 degrees of ambient temperature, it becomes a bit hazy. And yeah, I've worked on cooking like Asian food from 7 in the morning until 10 in the evening in other restaurants in the past. So I know it can be worse, and I have a tolerance. And of course, I've been to warmer places than this, but it's all about perspective and what you're doing in the day. But in a busy restaurant that keeps above 30, that adds a certain kind of tension. And if I've always been aware of social anxiety, yeah, definitely. I stopped wanting to go to school when I was 8 and started going instead out of the city into the forest. And sometimes my parents had to leave work and find me in the forest or in the countryside because my mother used to know where I went. Because often they started work earlier than my school, so if they weren't able to drive me to school, I was in charge of myself going to school. Because that was the 90s, and then you had a bike and 5 kilometers of bike to school, and that's expected of you as a individual compared to today where people are completely incompetent. But yeah, I've always been introverted too. And I don't have a favorite season because they all have something different to offer. But the end of summer and early autumn is fantastic for me because there's a lot happening visually that I can photograph and video that is interesting to me. And there's a lot of berries and fruit happening that are interesting to me. And if I like Amara, I don't mind them, but I wouldn't listen to them by myself like many other bands. I can listen to them and enjoy them, but I would never listen to them by myself. And I've heard of the name Coil, but I've never listened to it. And yeah, I cook meat here at work because I know how to do it, because I've been working in kitchens for the past 20 years. Um, and I know how it's supposed to feel and look. But also, of course, if there is something I'm unsure about, we have thermometers to keep track of stuff if I feel that I need it. Just as a safety precaution if someone wants something rare or medium. Yeah, you know how it works. And then, of course, my boss and some of my coworkers are not like me, so they also have their own skills to share. And what's my specialization? Or well, it depends. Different days, because at different hours of the day, I handle all of the warm stuff, which means, yeah, frying or deep frying anything that needs to be in that area, and also the cold aspect of things, which means setting the plates and making sandwiches and salads and things like that. And in the past restaurants, I've also been in charge of like the aspect or part of the kitchen which deals with anything that's called special diet or the exceptions to the menu. Like if you have allergies, or if you're a vegetarian or vegan, or if you're just allergic to different things. I used to be the one making the menu or the dish for you, or finding what ways to make it identical to the other stuff on the menu. And some bosses think it's less relevant to make it identical, but to me it's important, so that you can go out with your friends and not feel excluded from the experience. Because going out to a restaurant and sharing a meal should be a shared experience. And it's a experience that is like it's supposed to not be down here, but here. And my job is to keep it up here. And I don't have any opinion on. I appreciate that and hope the same. And thank you. I appreciate hearing that. And I haven't noticed any bugs from my decorations, but I live in the forest, or like in the countryside, so there's always bugs. And like I don't make any effort to remove spiders from my home because they eat bugs that I don't like. So that means that the spiders are my friends. So when I see spiders in my home, I let them be. So I don't experience problems with insects in my home because I have my own crew of nature's security guards that does that for me. And that sounds good. Cheers. I have 2 more left. So getting close to finishing this one. We just need to find an opener. Yeah, found it. And hi, Alien. I'm fine. Hopefully, you're too. Thanks, Jacob. I love it too. I couldn't see how anyone couldn't be, but I understand the process, how it can happen, because the world is slowly or sometimes too fast moving away from it, and it's not always in our own power to control that aspect of our lives, especially with studies or work. Well, sandwiches are always amazing, and that's something that I've always done a lot in work. Like we do around 100 to 150 here a day, and my previous workplace I did maybe 1 to 2 thousand of them. And high earth or earthy, depending on what you prefer. Earthy, the earthy peanut. And yeah, of course, I listened to old Trist releases. That's how we got in touch in the beginning, because yeah, I'll share that story in a video sometime, but I can do a shorter version over here. That he sent me his demos and I enjoyed it, so we started writing to each other, and that's also how we agreed on creating something together. And because of that, our project Life is Pain was born. And then it died, as it should. And if I'm close with my family, it depends on perspective. Because yeah, I don't see them a lot, but when I see them, I appreciate it. And if I like Macmira or whiskey in general, yeah, I can appreciate it. I have only tried maybe 3 or 4 kinds of Macmira over the years. And yeah, to me, because it's a smaller place, like, to me it's a bit above my price range. So I prefer buying beer. But I do enjoy it. As for cultural dishes in my area, there isn't really any good ones. Like this place is mostly famous for like, yeah, it's very basic Swedish food, but also like there's a lot of shrimp sandwiches going around here, and I would never eat them, but I understand the idea of it and the charm of it, especially in the summer because it's cooling and refreshing. But I really don't like the seafood industry. But I know that beyond this place, we're many years behind on doing some real work to affect how they are uh, handling these things in the world. So I'm not at a place where I could make a difference. So I'm not going to sacrifice my own well-being for that. So that's why I don't feel guilty about working here and preparing the food that I'm preparing. Thanks, Alien. So I just need to find the opener for the next beer here. And we have two vegan dishes on the menu. One is like steaks of zucchini that we made for ourselves from the with zucchinis, potatoes, and mushrooms. And then we have like a pre-made vegan burger. So that's not too bad. And I don't know Zlatan personally. And if Jan would agree to appear in my videos, yeah, I'm pretty sure he would. But I would need to travel to Czech Republic, which is a bit further ahead in the future than I can give a time estimate on. But you'll definitely see something in the future. And me and Nachtzeit are planning stuff in the future too, but we just don't play. We're not planning any dates. As for playing games on PC, I would, but I don't have the time or energy for it. I used in the past. And cheers. And welcome, another Russian. Nice to see you here. And as soon as the world opens up for me to travel beyond Europe, I will be more than happy to go to Russia and perform with my projects and bands. And if I've experienced anything unusual while walking outside the nature, yeah, definitely during the nights. And I have a video coming up next week about that. That there is a certain kind of aura or atmosphere that I feel when I'm outside at night in nature. And I've been thinking a lot about it, how to express it. And I think I found the right way to express it. So that's coming soon. And if I watch other YouTube channels, not at the moment, because I'm just too tired and I need the time that I'm not working to reflect and meditate and relax and think through ideas for the videos that I'm working on and also some songs that I'm working on. But yeah, there are a few that I will recommend in the future. And yeah, I will do something with cooking in the future when I'm able to invest in a better camera. And I've eaten surströmming in the past before I stopped eating fish, and it's nothing special to me. It's just fish. Different, but yeah, fish. And I'm glad to hear that. You are very welcome. And I enjoyed making that video and looking forward to making the second part soon. As for if I've been attacked when walking at night, I've been close to animals attacking me in the forest, but I've been able to avoid them. And yeah, I've been jumped and robbed by people in the past in different cities. But that just like 2 or 3 times over 20 years of being out in the nights. So that's not too bad, I think. I just lost some skin and one of my phones. So whatever. Well, usually I don't feel it's worth bringing something to defend myself because I'm out traveling and I used to always carry some like scalpels and other sharp objects, but over the years they became confiscated by cops and uh, airport security. And yeah, cities are worse. But yeah, whatever. It's not really worth it. And I know what you mean about the things, but generally I don't lose anything. I've been in more uh, situations where I've been attempted to be robbed or jumped and have resisted or left without losing anything. That's irrelevant because I'm not sitting here to drink beer and talk about people that didn't kick my ass. But I'm not here to talk about people kicking my ass either, but I'm just being honest about it. Things have happened in the past and I've learned from it, and now I know how to avoid that happening again. And sometimes that means losing something. That's the price of the lesson. And to test, the first video I made in the guitar video series, it started to rain and it almost ruined my cameras and microphones, but there is raining in that. But yeah, I've also recorded rain, and I'm going to record more of it in the future. So there will be more in the future where I'm like talking and some music and stuff like that. And if I've been arrested, yeah. One time when I was flying, I had some. I can't remember the name for it right now. Like batons in my bags, and they didn't like that. And then while being hangover in Belgium, I've been arrested for walking, like just jaywalking, walking over a red light, and I was too tired to walk away or run away, so And same here, last year, I was arrested for not having a ticket on the bus. So I was jumped by 5 cops or security guards from the bus company. So it's very stupid stuff like that. So yeah, I don't really have any, like, there's no file of me really. And of course, in my youth, when I was like 15 or 16, there's like for stealing stuff from stores. And there was one year when I was at some bars and was accused of causing problems and throwing stuff at people. So there was 3 guards jumping me and they ruined my phone. And I was arrested and had to go to court twice to prove that I was innocent. But nah, it's just bullshit. Yeah, Sweden is ridiculous when it comes to some rules. Because we don't have like real crime. As for advice for young musicians, learn how to EQ. That's a big thing you can use. Well, one of my problems is that, as someone might have noticed in other streams, that because that I don't really have a filter, I sometimes behave or say things that are too honest, and some people don't appreciate that. And of course, in my youth, I used to hang out with some girls that liked fires, so sometimes we made fires. And because I used to live in a smaller city in the countryside, the cops were maybe 30 or 40 minutes away in another city. So we knew that we could pretty much away from there without any issues. So that happened a couple of times because you're young and stupid and think with your downstairs brain. And I don't have children, and I don't know anyone that wants them with me. That's the main ingredient or aspect of it that is what it is. It's not one of my goals, but I wouldn't hide from it either. So we'll see what happens in the future. It's not my priority, but what happens, happens. And what doesn't happen, doesn't happen. That's all. But yeah, that stupid stuff about fires, that's connected to the question about running from cops, because I haven't bothered to run from them, but I've hid from them. Yeah, and I agree. I don't like being a hypocrite either. I'd rather be honest and get in trouble than lie about something and be free from trouble. Because I find it more interesting that if there is problems connected to what I do or what I think, I'd rather find a way out of it. And that's why a lot of my coworkers and even my boss here knows that I used to grow mushrooms and that my tattoos represent that, and that I'm a proponent of psychedelia. As where the cover of Rockbalsvalsen comes from. It's from our living room. And I'm going to pick up my next beer and also go to the bathroom. So I'll be back in a minute. And sorry for the delay for anyone. Cheers. As for ego death, I think that's like many things connected to perspective. And I've had times where I've learned about that I shouldn't take reality or my own perspective for granted, which is to some extent connected to a ego death. But I haven't had the experiences that some people tell me about where they literally disintegrate or decompose or become sand or wind or wherever. But I had plenty of lessons for life, and I've been working on a book about it, which is becoming like a manuscript and a video series that I'm working on. And it's going to be not just a video, but also like a podcast series. So you can, if you don't want to see me talking about it, you can also just listen to it. And I'm composing like a soundtrack for it too. So it's going to be a lot of things. But that's because it's a very important subject for me. So I'm not holding back. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing a separate audio version than the video version, because on YouTube, you can't talk about anything you want, while iTunes and Spotify doesn't really give a shit. And in worst case scenario, if they do give a shit, I'm going to simply have it available on either my own homepage for download or Bandcamp or something like that. So there will be options for anyone to access my talks and experiences on the subject. As for what kid I was when in school, in my earlier years, I tried to be a bit more. I was scared of being disliked and shunned because sometimes I was. So I just tried to be a part of whatever was happening because that's natural, I think, when you're younger. But then after the second or third year of school, I started caring less about it and caring more about nature and finding my own path. And from that, I yeah, I started learning more about myself and what life could be about, and that it's not about approval of others. It doesn't hurt, but yeah. And hi. And as for the other aspects of ego death, there's plenty of experiences in life that is without benefit. But I think if you twist that a bit, it once again becomes about perspective and about the need that you find ways to simply deal with the experience of some things being a deficit, like an investment. You won't have a reward immediately, and sometimes not at all. But once again, that also becomes about context and perspective, because over time you might find something you learned from your loss, no matter where, what, or when it was. And I think in the long run, that's always beneficial, even though it doesn't feel like it. Over time, you will regain that trust in yourself or in your experiences. And I understand and have the same difficulty sometimes with depression. And unfortunately, I can only really say that you should hang in there, and no pun intended. Um, Try to find something you enjoy and find a way to master it or improve it, your ability to do it, or find nature, ways to get away from people or yourself, like some kind of distance from your situation to regain perspective. Well, to me, many questions are open-ended, but I'm more than interested in answering it in a different angle. So, yeah, and I understand that idea about black metal, and I think it's bullshit because Satan is everywhere in everything, and have composed or written lyrics about it to prove it to some people that claimed that you can't talk about nature or flowers and still worship death or the devil. But I think hypothermia makes that very clear, that you can find the presence of the divine, or whatever you want to call it, in life or beyond it, and it's all about how you immerse yourself in that practice, and how long or deep that you dare to take your meditations. As for how often I consume weed, I haven't in months, but sometimes it's on a daily or weekly basis, sometimes monthly, sometimes quarterly. It depends, but it's been many months for me. But I agree, it can be helpful and enjoyable. It's all about, to me, it's I enjoy it most if I take too much of it, which means that I prefer doing it alone and not with people. But I do enjoy it with the right people too. And yeah, I agree to that the self-nourishment aspect of loneliness is it can be very important to learn that and to teach yourself that, because over the years, uh, if you care about yourself and your own evolution or enlightenment, you shouldn't base your identity or life on others and what they want or think. So that means choosing your own path, more or less, which inevitably will lead to some solitude, and you need to be fine with that. And self-nourishment is a important aspect of that you need to feel that you are in control of that situation, or you will feel at a loss instead of at a benefit. And hi, 13. I'm fine, thanks. And I don't think anything of those projects, because I just see them like a shadow. And yeah, I tried Spice in the past, and I think it's mediocre and uninteresting. I prefer real drugs. And of course, black metal is not all about Satanism, but just like nature, it's everywhere, so you can't avoid it. Like philosophy is in everything too. So yeah, it's just important to reflect and think for yourself and find your way in the world. And if I've tried to be in a sensory deprivation tank, unfortunately not. I want to, but I'm not at a place in time where I can do that at the moment. But it's going to happen sooner or later. And greetings to the Netherlands too. And pandiabolism sounds like a very good term. And I understand what you mean about a low dose of marijuana. I think I can say the same, but about mushrooms, because I enjoy it either in larger volumes, like around, like my standard is around 7 grams dried, but I do enjoy like half a gram too, because they open up very different doors in me, or to me, depending on how you wish to see it. But it's definitely better than Valium. And yeah, I've taken antidepressants over time, and to me, I know that Valium helps me, but they refuse to give it to me, and I don't want to buy it illegally because it's not worth the problem. It's easier to buy beer or just learn to meditate properly, which I've done over the years. But like anything in life, uh, I recommend it if it works for you, unless you're harming anyone else. Then, unless they're a part of your journey and want to do it too, stop. Um, um, yeah, medication, as long as it works for you, or if it's something you're interested in, it's worth a try. Because even if it doesn't work, at least you've tried it if you know it doesn't work for you. Yeah, all is fine here. And I feel loneliness all the time. Doesn't matter if I'm alone or with other people. I always feel alone, and that's one of the reasons why I made a conceptual series about being alone or always feeling alone, and to cope with the fact that no matter what, there will always be some extent of you that is deeply rooted in loneliness, and you need to find peace with that. And I think it's an important lesson that we all need to learn. And yeah, I've taken a fair amount of psychedelic substances over the years. I'm going to feature that in detail. In I've definitely been in love more than I wanted to be. And to me, marijuana doesn't help with depression, but to some people it might. You should never exclude something just because some people say something else. Try it for yourself and see what your own experience is, and base it upon that. Because no one else is you. Well, to me, 7 grams is not a huge dose because I've taken a lot more. Uh, like I've had 5 grams of dried mushrooms, then about 20 to 30 of fresh mushrooms, along with 1,000 micrograms of LSD, just to see how it feels. And people claim that you haven't done mushrooms or LSD without ego death, but I didn't have it done. So when am I going to have it? Or in other words, is it just other people being weak? or frail or shallow, because I don't want to call myself deeper or something else, because I honestly don't give a fuck. I just know that I'm different, and like everything else or everyone else, our experiences of everything are too. I will meditate, wandering through a forest or the countryside, but also if you have a bed or a floor, lay down on it, close your eyes without sleeping, and focus on something you need to think about, and find your way towards it, and knock everything else out as time passes. And no, I haven't injected anything beyond a couple of vaccines over the years for traveling in the past. I'm not interested in injecting anything else. It's to me, it's more enjoyable to inhale or smoke things. Definitely, and I've seen that happen to some people too. I've been able to avoid it, fortunately. If I can say something in German. Beer. Und I'm blanking. I was going to conduct a sentence on drinking a beer later, and I only got to später. I used to be able to speak and read it a long time ago, but it's been too long. Yeah, beer bit is something you can get along with well. As for Swedish traditions, like we have a lot of agriculture and farming. And like 1st of May, it's a tradition to make a fire, and in midsummer, it's traditional to dress up a pole that looks like the cervix and dance around it, which is cool too. And I don't know what conscription is. What is it? Can you explain it or make some kind of additional statement about it? Could be interesting, I guess. Ah, uh, I was on it when I was 16, 20 years ago. I went to the meeting for it, and because I was in the middle of my tests for like depression, autism, and other stuff, they didn't see me to be safe enough. So I was called out of it. And this beer is just a lager from a Swedish brewery. And yeah, those rituals are pretty nice. Um, and yeah, the next stream I'm doing is going to be a ceremony connected to that. Yeah, I understand that. And I haven't tried ketamine yet, but I have friends that vouch for it, so I'll see what happens. But yeah, beyond these new microphones, I also got a new loop pedal, so and a new speaker and amplifier, so I'm going to be able to perform both vocals and guitar at the same time, and maybe piano or drums too. So I'm going to be able to deliver a good, interesting live performance on the midsummer in this restaurant. As for my favorite black metal country, it depends on perspective because to me the nature here is fantastic, so I wouldn't be able to make or live at all without Sweden. But of course, the best bands over the years have been from Norway. So uh, I think I'll return more about my thoughts on consciousness in my video series and sound or podcast series about psychedelia. But a short part of what I can say is that it's definitely connected to nature and just physics and chemistry. That there is a big part of it that is to us if we study it, but we shouldn't take it for granted because you need to immerse yourself into it to some extent to get the understanding of what you're capable of, to teach yourself about not just your abilities but also your limitations. And from there is something that you can have a lot of use of, I think. And what time it is in Sweden? It's 11 in the evening. Yeah, Austria has some great nature too. And of course, I happen to be in a mountain right now, so I'm a bit spoiled with nature here too. But it depends on where you live. Like there's many plain aspects of each country where there is just industry or cities or countryside. Sounds like a good idea. Um, and I used to have a lot of friends in my youth that skated. And that's a funny connection to Jeff too, as some of you may know. Uh, yeah, just because I had some friends skating, I almost broke my arm once and also fucked up my knee when I was maybe 12 or 13. And I prefer to get such injuries by climbing trees. So I did that instead, because to me that's more interesting. But because I used to like sell cigarettes and alcohol to other skaters in the city when I was younger, because I was either knowing other dealers or stealing it. That's how I knew a lot of them, and of course having parties and having like a sanctuary for people to party during the evenings, because me and my mother are open spirits and open minded. So I never chased that lifestyle of skating, but I definitely knew people in my youth that did. Several of them ended up addicted to drugs, unfortunately. It's time to open the last beer here. Just thinking where I put the opener. Ah, found it. This is an old opener, so that's why it sucks. And you should be careful about opioids. They are interesting, but all vices have their own issues. And I used to grow somniferum too, and it's an interesting plant. As for how many beers it takes for me to pass out, it depends on if I'm free or if I work. But it's usually somewhere between 10 to 15. And if I have the time to eat and drink other things in between, 15 to 20. Well, I've had the opener nearby all the time, but I moved it twice. So, and if I drink harsh alcohol, yeah, but I don't have the money for it right now. But I can drink anything. I enjoy drinks because I'm a drinker. Well, it's a noticeable logo, and I know that. Well, we haven't talked personally, but I know that he knows who I am. And I know who he is, but we're not the kind of people that needs to have acceptance of others. So that's why I'm not forcing it. I know that it will happen over time. And I made my fair share of beer and wine at home. And I'm going to open a brewery sometime in the future, but I only have like 3 or 4 recipes that I feel are worth selling. And I want to have at least 5, so I can have like 1 or 2 all year and some seasonal stuff. Because to me, it's one of the most frustrating things of when a new brewery is selling things that are below standard or just shit. It gives a bad name to beer, and I refuse to be a part of that. So I rather take 5 more years to perfect what I'm doing. Same with distilling things. So I have the equipment and I know how to do it, but I need to become better at it. And for me, there's enough sugar in drinks that I drink just to keep active at work. So I don't do candy beyond that. And yeah, that sounds like a good time. I've done that a couple of times too, along with jumping off of roofs and plenty of other ridiculous things. And what's my favorite German beer? I'm not sure. 'Cause, I do appreciate a good gose, but yeah, like the classic Berliner Weiss is good too, but there's few breweries that does it properly. And I remember like a decade ago being to Berlin and drinking like a sherry porter. But I have no idea if that was from a German brewery, if it was just something that was only available in Germany because I haven't found it in other countries. But that was a fantastic beer. That was fun to drink while in Berlin, but it's hard to know. And I simply enjoy a good beer. Uh, I've had a few thousand over the years. I tend to drink between 200 and 300 different ones each year, at least, just to keep my mind on track and see where things are going. And and yeah, 5 beers is the like the gold standard or the perfect time when you can speak, but you're also awake. And then around 10 is that you feel fantastic, but you can't speak. And I enjoy that too. So it all depends on if you're around people or in a video stream or live stream like this, or if you're alone, I think. As for what my non-alcoholic drink is, like favorite, definitely coffee. It's hard to avoid a good cup of coffee, even a bad one. But also, I'm spoiled with good water here in Sweden, but I would never be able to say water before coffee. And this is just a lager. And if I've tried smoked beer, yeah, of course. And I made some too. It's fine. I prefer other beer. And no, it definitely wasn't a Coke in that beer. It wasn't one of those German beers. And thank you, Elvia. And good evening or night. And take care. And see you next time. Cheers. And if I blacked out on alcohol, definitely, but not on the cliffs or highways. But I know that I've been in situations unsafe to me. And I used to have a bad habit in my youth of trying to get my friends to kill me. I don't know why. I used to ask them to cut my throat, which is a bad idea. If I got drunk enough, that was my request. And have been carried on people's shoulders or backs several times because of that, like 20 years ago, when I wasn't used to how alcohol works for me. No, they didn't agree. That's why I'm still here. As for if I could equal being really drunk with other effects from other substances, yeah. Mm. Because there is a part of you where you feel that you are clear, you have consciousness, that you're conscious, you can form like a sentence or even several sentences, but it's too complicated to put that into words. And for me, that would definitely be like a large amount of LSD compared to a large amount of alcohol. Like for me personally, I'm just able to laugh at that point. If something becomes too obvious to me, that I can't realize that other people are not shocked or amused by it, like I am, I skip giggling or laughing. And I have no idea about Austrian beers. I know that I've drank some, but I can't remember the names. Thank you, Alejandro. I enjoy Del Tria from the Razor Waltz too. Yeah, I've definitely drank Zipfer and Glossel or Glossa. Um, yeah, most of all, I've had maybe 2, 3 different kinds of Zipfer. I haven't had Stiegel. Yeah, there will be some guttural voice in the future. And if you like that style, you should listen to the second Cal album. That's pretty much all I'm doing there. And thank you to Bella. Yeah, I definitely plan on completing a book someday, but it's going to be what I talked about previously, like the video and podcast series, because that's easier. Because it's really hard to write something without editing the shit out of it. It's easier to make it good into like a sound, like a like an audiobook with music. That's more what I'm interested in making. And thank you. As for how I met with the band of Cal, the majority of the members were like live musicians for my other band, Life Lover. So that's how I met them. And then when we stopped Life Lover, we simply continued making Cal. And over the years, we got to know some fantastic other musicians, like our drummer from some other bands that we knew people of, and of course our bassist from. And yeah, we're working on the third album, but also an EP with Cal. So we'll see what happens in the future. But first, we're going to make like a live video stream, or like we'll find a way this year to make a concert for everyone that can't come to our concerts because we're not allowed to travel. So that's something we've been working on for a while. And when I met them last time in March, for the first time in 18 months, we recorded a lot of things too. So there's going to be a lot of interesting things in the future. And Zachary, that's like everything about that album is like manufactured. It's just postponed because of some other things, but there's yeah, there's some songs that are both unreleased and released, and from like 2005 that's coming out sooner than later. And as for my experiences with cannabis, yeah, I have plenty. Especially a decade ago, we used to smoke every day, more than we should. But that teaches you about your limitations and also what you can do with sound and yourself. But that also taught me over the years that I appreciate more, not on a daily basis, but maybe a monthly basis. Like instead of microdosing, I prefer overdosing to really see where I have myself. And in my experience, or my preference of smoking cannabis is like I don't like the taste of most tobaccos, but there are a few from Belgium that I like. So I tend to make like a 90% cannabis and hashish mix with maybe 5 to 10% of a good tobacco and smoke that uh, in a pipe or in a joint. And I prefer to smoke that by myself in solitude. As for my favorite Lifelore album, Concurs. And to me, bong hits are always uh, I don't appreciate them. Nah, it's overrated. You should never underestimate a good pipe. And hopefully, Zachary received a personal one from me. And yeah, you can definitely do that. I made one with Datura, but that's irrelevant. For this video at least. I'm going to be more in depth in another video about Datura. As for what other instrument I would like to learn to play, I wanted to become better at performing on tongue drums because it's really hard for me to do it without sounding generic or boring. Well, a wood pipe or a proper stone pipe. I have both, of course. As for jazz, my bassist is a lot better in that field than me. But anything jazzy or different, like I regret not talking about it earlier, but uh, if you're not familiar with Esbjörn Svensson Trio, you should definitely listen to them. I will spell it in the chat just to make sure, because it's an important band and yeah, it's worth checking out if you want to just hear something as close to perfection as possible. There you go. You're welcome. And I'm glad to hear that, Zachary. Cheers. As for the sigils, it's one of my friend's families that carved it. It's from a smaller village in Mexico that bought the pipes, and they carve my sigils for me into the stone that is harvested from the ground in that city. As for favorite wine flavor, I'm not sure what that means, but a good Pinot Noir is fantastic. As for how I learned the rules and alchemy about my sigils, I never learned the rules because I don't care about rules, and I think rules are stupid. Over the years, I've just met interesting people and educated people that has allowed me to learn new things about the craft. And yeah, I understand what you mean about wine then. That I to me too much wood is too intense. Like I don't like when something is too tannic because that feels like I'm in a sauna. But too fruity is too sweet for me because I associate the fruity taste with sweet. So that's why I prefer generally French wines because they tend to be more dry, while Italian wines tend to be sometimes too woody, too fruity. Same with Portuguese. And South African tend to be too sweet too, and American wines tend to be too sweet for me too. But I'm always on the hunt for a good wine, so I'm not against finding a new terroir that I'm not familiar with. And yeah, thank you too. This stream wouldn't be anything without having this conversation and people talking. So I appreciate that a lot too. As for how I painted the picture in my videos behind me, I have no idea what you're talking about because at my home there's just nature. Do you mean the cloth that's colored by sap from pine trees and blood from sheep? My mother made that from her farm or windmill that she used to live at. and this is by someone else, just local artist. And thanks, Juggernaut, and good night. Well, that's why I'm here, and I thank everyone present. This is the beer I have left, so that's the time I have left in the stream. And then, of course, I'm joining you again in the morning if the internet is still working. We'll see. If it stinks, blood of sheep, it's the same as blood of other animals. It depends on if it's fresh or if you let it cook or boil or spoil. As long as anything is fresh, it doesn't matter. But over time, it dries and smells like earth to me. All of us smell like earth with time. And I think it's ridiculous that people are against the smell of decomposition. I've had some weird times at venues about that. I can't understand it because to me that's nothing. Especially the people that eat corpses, but they're against the smell of corpses. Doesn't make sense to me. Fucking embrace it. That's what I say. And I paint sometimes, and my mother makes wood carvings. Yeah, exactly. Well, there is death. Death is everywhere, no matter what you eat. You can never escape death. Everything dies. Everything screams. Everything sighs. Everything breathes. And yeah, I know what you mean, Bella. I used to have a lot of bones and skulls at my previous rehearsal space, and they threw it out because they regarded it as garbage. And they are the same people that would be angry at me if I owned them 500 crowns or 50 euros. Well, they would happily throw away something worth several hundred euros because they don't recognize the value of a sacrifice of a life or of someone's bones compared to money. And that's one of many reasons why I don't get along with people. Because their aesthetics and their values are flawed and outdated. And if like unskapt, that's a matter of perspective. But there's a part of me that loves them unconditionally, and that part will always remain. Well, I think just coping with other people, you can't avoid it. It's a part of life, and in the end, it becomes more about knowing yourself and knowing your own strengths and limitations. And you should never waste your energy on hatred, or if you can avoid it. Yeah, there are some nice points being made in the chat, and I'm feeling that, yeah, I don't have anything else to drink. And I can't really lend much else of my perspective to the chat here either. And the connection has been dropping a bit sometimes, so I'm not sure what to say. But if there is requests, of course, I won't just leave without answering it. But otherwise, I feel like it started a bit slow, but it progressed into something pretty nice. And I'm glad to hear that. And of course, cheers and good night to those of you that needed the rest. I'm approaching mine, though. Yeah, I'll try again tomorrow. And I agree, it's the optimal way to commemorate an existence, to make something bigger of it. Yeah. Canada sounds like a confusing place. But will I will be able to catch your schedule in another time? I'm searching for ways to make this a bit more, yeah, varied in times. But right now I'm a bit limited. We'll see what happens in the future. Well, I can never relax. It's not in my nature. But if it's a request and not a command, I'll see what I can do about it. And thanks, Zachary. I appreciate hearing that. And yeah, I will try to find a way to keep this thing working. Otherwise, there's other times. Thanks to those of you who kept active, and thanks for all the good questions and other things. Well, that sounds good. Well, I'm not going to change what I'm able to offer, though. Maybe with time, I could offer like twice the amount of streams, but to half of the amount of time. So maybe instead of 3 hour streams in a time when no one is able to watch, or just 5 people able to watch, I can make 1 hour streams divided into different times. But the only way to see that is to do this, and I will see who you are active in the chat in the stream, and we can see together what works best. Because I do not trust and also don't give a shit about analytics or what they claim to give me more money, because I don't care about the money. I care about talking to you here who are in my stream and in the chat, and whatever works for you best, like when you have requests, that's what matters to me, because I can find ways, the times that I have free, like I can plan my day around it. It doesn't matter to me if I'm sitting here at a certain amount of hours between different hours when I'm free. If I'm free, I'm free. So yeah, anything else doesn't matter. So yeah, once again, thank everyone in the chat for watching and adding your questions. It's been very interesting and I appreciate it a lot. See you next time and take care. I hope to see you soon. See you next time. See you next time. Thanks. Take care. Good night.